When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the mic.
Hello everybody, welcome to Rewind to Raw. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting here on a Monday night coming out of Raw from Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John, what's up?
Not a lot.
Yeah, it's another week. Another busy one here at Post Wrestling.
Dude, I can never do another commercial-free hour of Raw. It's just terrible.
They're not exactly the greatest thing to hear on a show that's already 3 hours and feels a bit longer than it needs to be. But
they snuck it in too. It's like I saw the tweet come out at like 6 o'clock tonight, and it was just like, commercial free. And dude, that by the second hour, I just you could have given me like a 5-star classic in the middle of that second hour. I was out. I was done in the second hour.
Were you watching live?
I was pretty close to live, yeah. I mean, it's tough because we got finish on time, and it's like this first hour just totally throws you off. Like I'm used to starting Raw like closer to 9 o'clock, and this commercial free thing, it just totally screws it up for you.
It is a lot, yeah, and you're gonna get some of that, I'm sure, on NXT tomorrow as well.
I'm not so upset about that for NXT tomorrow. Like it looks like a pretty good card. I don't think I'll feel it as much on Tuesday. But tonight, dude, it was just by the second hour, it's like 9:15, and it just felt like the worst of the 3-hour era. I'm pretty much immune now to the 3 hours, but tonight just like it was like a baseball bat just hitting me in the face repeatedly over and over and over again.
How do you think the ratings will reflect the commercial free hour?
I would think, just looking logically, that the Open should be stronger than last week, where I think a lot of people were just tuning into the USA Network and then having to go find it on Sci-Fi, and that first segment was terrible. I don't think it's going to be meaningfully larger than last week, but I would say maybe small increase from last week.
Like, do we have evidence that being commercial free helps?
It's like we do know, like there is a tune-out factor when you have the whether it's picture-in-picture or going flat out to commercials. Like there's a dip that's going to pull down your quarter hours. So you take those out. It's, typically there's going to be exceptions here and there that it's going to help your number because there's no escape. There's no reason for you to lose your attention on the show. Other than burnout is not always figured in. But I mean, the Raw pattern, and it figured in last week. It's like the second hour is their big hour, and then they, it went up in the first hour. Second hour was the biggest, and then it falls back down in hour 3.
Okay.
So we'll see. They did not only the commercial free idea, but then they did this long continuous gauntlet that took up like 45 minutes of that second hour.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, we'll get into all of that. This week, we're not going to go through the entire schedule. It's up on the website, but we are going to be doing an Elimination Chamber post-show this Saturday night. We're going to go live at 8 o'clock Eastern this Saturday night. That was the time we came up with. So we'll be on several hours after Elimination Chamber. You can have time to watch it, and then we will go through the show on Saturday night. That will be live for our double ice cap and espresso members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. But Tuesday night, patrons will get Ask Away, our monthly mailbag show, and you can still get your questions in. So it is last call for questions. You can submit them on the forum at forum.postwrestling.com, and we will be getting to those on Tuesday as we see what everyone has to ask. No subjects are off limits.
Yeah, no questions barred unless we think it's wildly inappropriate, then we'll probably skip it.
Or dumb. We do skip dumb questions.
Or dumb, sure, yeah. But most of the, 99% of the time, we'll just answer it. But of course, that's also in addition to the daily news updates, which are coming out every single day, 1 o'clock Eastern time at YouTube or Twitter or Facebook.
That's right. Live every day at 1 Eastern. And myself, Brandon Thurston, and David Bixenspan will be doing a special panel on Thursday, chatting about the WWE relationship in Saudi Arabia. Looking forward to that discussion. That will be Thursday at 1 Eastern. So again, Postwrestling.com is where you can get the lineup of all of our various shows dropping on a daily basis up on the site and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And of course, give the YouTube channel a subscribe, a thumbs up, share it, spam it to all of your friends. That is the true mark of your faith in post wrestling.
Always, yeah. We can always use the extra publicity. So yeah, we thank everybody who does that.
We'll go into these subjects more on Tuesday's news update, but wanted to make mention, first of all, the passing of former referee Mickey Henson, Mickey J, who's spent time in WCW, in WWE as well, passing away at the age of 59. So we'll talk a little bit about him. There is a story up on the site right now. And another story coming out from Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful Select is that WWE has at least made an overture towards Steve Austin about the potential of doing a match at WrestleMania. Nothing is confirmed, but obviously, I think everyone anticipates Steve Austin being involved in some form or fashion at WrestleMania, but the idea of doing a match, I guess that is now the subject that has at least been broached. And for all of these years, I mean, you can probably imagine the millions that this guy has turned down over a cumulative basis for comeback matches, and when they have needed something big for Mania, I mean, he has remained pretty steadfast about not coming back, and I guess we will see if this is one that there is interest. It obviously comes down to Steve Austin's side and what he is interested in doing, but I think we would definitely expect at least a presence at one or both of the nights.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's all over the promos. It is in Texas. I think many of us probably would have figured if he was going to be coming back at any point, it probably would have been for one of these Saudi shows. I mean, they got Shawn Michaels back. The only person really left on that list to stick to a retirement has been Steve Austin. And he hasn't returned yet to any of the Saudi shows, but to return for a WrestleMania in his home state, maybe we're pushing it towards the last point where he might physically still be able to pull off a professional wrestling match of the standard that he probably prides himself on. We could be talking the time, so it could be kind of exciting, and we'll see how well this overture went. You know, when I think of overture, I think of like Bugs Bunny and Tweety, like, you know, overture. Like, did they like sing for him? Did they hire an orchestra?
You know what? When you're at like 50,000 tickets out for each night at AT&T Stadium, you may very well be going to Texas and singing on his front lawn to come work one of those nights. I mean, they've got tickets to push for these two shows. Like, they've sold a lot of tickets for Mania, but they have a lot still to sell. And when you look at it, if you are feeling the need to fill these stadiums on either night, like where are you looking? And Steve Austin is sort of that last kind of holy grail when it comes to someone that we can take the biggest name from that giant peak period for the company to come back and do something.
And at this moment, do we know if it's one night, two nights?
What do you mean?
WrestleMania next year.
Oh, for next year. We're talking about though this year's.
I thought. Okay, yeah, you're right. This year's 38. Sorry, I'm getting all my numbers confused. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's huge.
So, I mean, if this is coming together,
night? I would hate to be somebody who bought a ticket to one of these nights hoping for Steve Austin and then not getting him.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be like if you are someone that wants to buy a ticket to WrestleMania, and this ends up going through, yeah, you want to be there for the night that he's going to be there, rather than just you put this whole thing together and you don't know until the days leading up what night is that match going to be on. It's this kind of what we talked about today.
I'm sorry, up until this point, I thought it was a year from now.
No,
like, how is this
we're
man
talking about in like 6 weeks.
Is this man in shape to get ready for a match in a month and a half? Like, that's crazy. That's a very small amount of time.
So Andrew Thompson like dug this up. It was like a great find on his part, is that like Steve Austin actually like bought a wrestling ring last summer from High Spots that they threw some photos up when he bought it. So he's physically got a ring there on his property. And I mean, we've seen him like physically, he looks great. He's like, this is not someone that it's going to take you. He has said himself that in theory, I could do a match. He said this a while back, but it would take for him like a training camp, like a 3 to 4 month training camp, to get ready for something like this. And like, if we're just talking and like, again, I'm not saying like how far these talks are, but if we're still in just the discussion phase right now and he has not, committed to this, I would say 6 weeks. Like I would be very hesitant if we're not even at a point where he has signed off on this idea yet, that I think he himself would want to give himself months. And I mean, that could be a case where they have just kept things very quiet. But again, that's just getting into speculation.
Well, I mean, that is part of the fun, isn't it? Let the speculation begin. Let the match of dream match opponents begin to circulate. Let the wrestlers themselves maybe try to speak up to fight for that match now that this news is at least circulating out there on the internet. So I'm sure we'll learn.
But what would you
more.
pitch? What would be like the most valuable usage of a Steve Austin if he says, sure, I'll do one more match?
Well, if you watch the Pat McAfee interview today, I mean, I think everybody would be clamoring for that Brock Lesnar match, wouldn't they? It's the one match, the big elusive match that Austin and never had, the one that kind of caused the end of his, well, I mean, in story, perhaps. You have so much to draw from with him taking his ball and going home for refusing to do the match with Brock. I mean, Brock is tied up this year. But if we're strictly talking of everybody on the roster that's available and dream match opponents, it would be Brock. But I mean, it's also a very physical match. I don't know if I would recommend for somebody of his age.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the roster, that would probably be like the best choice, but it would require blowing up your major program this year. That seems like that would, just cause, like you're leaving Reigns without an opponent, and like that is what you have been building this whole show towards. But you're right. Like that probably is like the most lucrative opponent of what you have got. And it could be a combination of things. It could just be, hey,
it could be anybody, John. Like, honestly, if it's Austin coming back, I think, as long as it's not Vince, I mean, actually, that probably
you're right. It could be anyone, but it's like you also want to have someone of substance that it's intriguing. I don't think you want to just, and I don't think Austin's coming back for just something that is not special or something that's not of substance. Because if not, you can always do Austin just showing up and destroying the heel that you just do the beer bash with, and you don't have to have the whole song and dance of a giant wrestling match. He can just do an appearance and destroy a guy, and everyone goes nuts, and he does the beer bash. Like, that's a given you can do.
If it was like a year from now, maybe Brock would be considered, but I mean, that's also a year older. But, if it's somebody in 6 weeks' time, you obviously, I think, want somebody who is a great worker, somebody who can potentially carry a man like him to a great match up to the standard, and somebody who's incredibly safe and can be trusted with somebody like Steve Austin. And I mean, Kevin Owens is right there. He's the guy who does the move. He's currently a heel right now.
And he's doing the Texas stuff on TV right now.
Totally. Yeah, it almost seems a bit perfect, isn't it? And almost like they might already be thinking about it as a backup plan, perhaps. Who knows what's going on? But, he would probably be also the other best choice.
Well, on that note, we'll get into tonight's 8-hour edition of Raw that took place from the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this was notable because being in Indianapolis, that's where Pat McAfee does his show. And yes, Brock Lesnar did a rare media appearance on Monday. I only caught some clips of this. Did you catch a little bit of this?
I do caught clips, but I think I got the gist of the vibe. It was a very different Brock Lesnar. We've seen in this current run Brock Lesnar come back and show a very different side of his personality on camera, and clearly this has extended to his real life interviews on media outlets as well, including the Pat McAfee show. It just felt like an incredibly different Brock from what we've seen, because he was just having fun.
I think he really likes Pat McAfee as well. So that probably helped.
Seems to like the show, seems to be familiar with the vibe and tone of the show. And fit in like a regular recurring cast member. He was incredible, wildly entertaining.
It was so funny that Pat McAfee was not available Friday to do the SmackDowns because of the Super Bowl, and then tonight, WWE's in his hometown, and it's not his show to do. So maybe so we got no Pat McAfee tonight even.
Yeah, no McAfee, but I mean, he's a very valued member of this company right now. All over the Super Bowl ad was all him.
It was his voiceover.
Yeah, and as his stock grows in sort of the mainstream broadcast landscape, I think the WWE is more than happy to rely on him.
So they were at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Monday. For main event, they taped Tommaso Ciampa, who would actually appear on Raw, against T-Bar, and Veer versus Apollo Crews. I don't think we even got a Veer promo tonight, did we?
I didn't notice.
I didn't either, so maybe he's gotten lost again, the patient warrior.
I don't see him debuting until after Mania at this point. Like,
which Mania? Next year's?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll see Austin before Veer.
Austin could come back before Veer, very likely.
Austin Mahan.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to do there. This opening segment. Okay, Bobby Lashley and MVP come out. Go back and watch this because there was this subtle joke. Jimmy Smith was being sarcastic, stating, yeah, you can see the look on his face. He's really worried about this Elimination Chamber, something to that effect. And Byron Saxton just takes him being literal. He's like, Bobby Lashley's got to know that the days could be numbered for him. And then Jimmy Smith is like realizing he did not get his sarcasm. So he said, Bobby Lashley doesn't seem to have a care in the world. That was the most entertaining part of this because we then got like just the worst of the procession of terrible promos, I thought, from everybody here. Lashley had to do a lot of talking, and he's usually pretty good, but I just felt like he was trying to memorize a lot, and he had these gaps at different points, and there was a lot of dialogue here, nothing of it of any kind of substance. It was just the most generic stuff here. MVP's going through the odds of Lashley winning, being 1-6, and he's got a 100% chance because he's almighty. Seth Rollins comes out. God bless the guy, just does a fucking Seth Rollins diatribe. Riddle comes out in his toga and compares the Elimination Chamber to a big quiz bowl and then goes off about getting locked in a gas station and then the next morning being unlocked and compared that to the chamber. Stupid. Austin Theory is out next and says that apologies are weaknesses and he is going to win the chamber as Vince McMahon's protege. I think he called him Vince McMahon's prodigy, but meant protege. And then AJ Styles is the last one out, saying that Theory kisses Vince McMahon's ass. I could be a double champion if I win the U.S. title tonight and on win Saturday. So this was like the Comedy Central roast where everyone comes out and cuts their promo, and then the subject being Bobby Lashley, in this case, he gets the last say at the end, so he gets the microphone. Seth Rollins, if you're such a visionary, then you'd be able to see that you can't beat me for the WWE title. Austin Theory, you're just wet behind the ears. And Theory like checked behind his ears. Riddle, you just need to come down from the cloud that you're on. AJ Styles, you're not going to have the WrestleMania moment you dreamed of. And now let me address Brock Lesnar. And with that, Brock's music hits and he comes down in his cowboy hat. He uses Austin Theory as a coat rack to place his sweater and cowboy hat on. Theory then leaps onto his back, flies off, and gets suplexed and takes an F5. And then Austin Theory, while he's laying there, his phone is on the mat. Brock takes the phone and takes a selfie with Austin Theory, and he took a very good selfie that appeared online afterwards. Brock Lesnar was the only saving grace of this. I thought this was just a dreadful start to the show.
I think there's probably a case of Stockholm syndrome for me in that, like, it just feels like the norm, and wasn't necessarily maybe so as aggravating in any sort of way because I'm probably so used to it. But I mean, you're absolutely right. It's incredible. It's just another generic sort of video game programmable season mode type of opening segment here with pretty generic lines. Really just a way to visually tell you what to focus on in the match. And I felt like like the big push was for another interaction between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, and everybody else will also be there.
That is the best conclusion of this segment is that it's Lashley against Brock Lesnar and everybody else in this match. And that's how they felt like coming out of this. Street Profits are in the back. We got highlights of Dolph Ziggler appearing on NXT last week. So Ziggler and Rude against the Street Profits. Ciampa is on commentary, and he ends up standing up and clapping, mocking Dolph Ziggler, who then gets water thrown on him, and this leads to Rude being distracted in the ring and getting hit with the Sky High and from the heavens, and Rude takes the fall in 2 minutes and 49 seconds. After the match, Ziggler would super kick Ciampa, and then the Profits went after Ziggler, who escaped the ring and evaded the Street Profits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, a little surprising that we'd even see this level of integration from an NXT star on WWE TV main roster. I mean, the last time we had, what is it, Grayson Waller, I suppose. So this month it's Tommaso Ciampa, who, I guess came across okay if you knew who Tommaso Ciampa was. But I mean, if you didn't,
if not, this guy is not leaving any kind of impression on you after this show.
Not so much. He's just another guy. Yeah.
We go to the Toga Party.
The Broga Party.
Sorry, the RK-Broga Party. I guess it wasn't really an RK-Broga Party. It was Riddle having a toga party with like a couple friends and a bunch of extras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was really no payoff to this idea that they promoted for a week.
Well, I mean, they were just beaten up. Like, it was the Alpha Academy.
No, Randy had no involvement in this at all. But his beatdown would come later. So we have Commander Aziz, Apollo Crews, Queen Zelina, and Carmella all in togas. Riddle walks in. Vega thinks it's a party for her. And Orton is shown watching this from his locker room, just shaking his head. And he explains to Kevin Patrick he isn't the Broga type of guy. And he has a match to focus on tonight with Seth Rollins. A Twitter poll was taken away, not for the Toru Yano Minoru Suzuki match, but instead of fans of whether they believed Kevin Owens is lying about his love for Texas he professed last week. 60.5% of people voted that Kevin Owens was lying last week. So we go to a promo that Kevin Owens had taped where he admits that he doesn't think he will be in the Elimination Chamber match this Saturday and therefore will not be at WrestleMania this year. I don't know how one adds up to the other. I think Kevin Owens has to realize how these cards work. And that bothers him, that he won't be part of WrestleMania. But he won't have to compete in Dallas, and brings up this poll where the people in Texas questioned his integrity and called him names. He said, well, last week I was lying, but now I can say that I can't stand Texas. Just like Indianapolis. I despise Texas. I'm from Maryville, Quebec, with a sophisticated populace. And if North America was a human body, Texas would be its ass. As Kevin Owens paying tribute to the famous Bret Hart sticking the hose right here in Pittsburgh. The enema promo.
I mean, in terms of like anatomy, I feel like actually Texas would make a bit more sense, but I mean, what a rude, terrible thing to say, of course. The state of Texas is wonderful, I'm sure. But this is I mean, it all seems to be leading up towards a spot where a Texan will give the man his comeuppance.
I think that certainly, like, at the very least, you can expect, some kind of physicality that this would be building up to at WrestleMania. If it's more, great for WWE, but at the very least, I think you could pay this off with, Owens continually running down Texas up until WrestleMania, and you do this thing where he's not booked on the show, and he just crashes the show and just has his hatred for Texas.
Totally. Yeah, and they have no shortage of, Texan Hall of Famers that can come in and hit a finisher or a choke slam or a super kick or something like that. Or all of them.
Would you do it with multiple people?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You know what you could do for easy heat? He walks in with a mask on in Texas.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Damian Priest and AJ Styles for the U.S. title. So, This was the old John Kavanaugh saying, win or learn.
Yeah,
There's no such thing as losing.
I mean, they say that everywhere, actually, in martial arts.
I'm isolating one person, but the idea here was they had like a fine match. It was only 4.5 minutes, but last week when Priest ran the ropes, he ran right into a phenomenal forearm. So this week when the spot was set up, he held on to the rope when AJ leaped off for the phenomenal forearm, and instead Priest used a sunset roll up to catch AJ in 432. Afterwards, they shook hands, and we have to accept that AJ Styles might not be a double champion going into WrestleMania.
Yeah. I think you and I both expected Damian to come out. And
they kind of teased it. Like, he got upset after he went for a pinfall and AJ kicked out. He had like the face on him, but then it didn't really go anywhere.
Right. Well, he prevented the Damian from coming out by being able to control his emotions and actually thinking. So I guess this week's showing that he doesn't even need Damian to win his matches for him.
Maybe he needs Lily, or maybe he's had therapy.
So off screen, perhaps, yeah. Or maybe we see Damian another point.
We went back to therapy with Alexa Bliss. She says that life is good, and she is happy for the first time in a long time. Her wardrobe continues to change week by week, and the therapist, who's never been given a name in all of this, I feel we've seen him too many times to not have a name. He says that she is entitled to a gift. And she says, well, maybe you can turn this music off. And he agrees. And they missed the easiest joke. I was waiting for the therapist to say, Alexa, turn the music off. This stuff was just softball for them.
Oh, yeah.
So the music ends, and Alexa did not notice the new suspenseful music that started playing as this guy brings out the remains of Lily, and he gives it to Alexa so she can be at peace, and then pulls out the replica version to say, I have an idea. And do we want to just tie these two segments together? It concludes with the therapist during that gauntlet match. He had plenty of time that he stuffed the replica doll with the remains of the original Lily to present to Alexa, who during the gauntlet match went to the mall to buy this new silver-studded jacket. And the therapist tells her to never let this Lily out of her sight so that she can live a wonderful life. And she says, sure, and is added to the Elimination Chamber match as the mystery participant.
Yeah. So
she's cured.
So yeah, and thankfully these segments are finally, run their course, and we're out of this room. But this is WWE's version of The Room. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we've come after weeks, and I guess we've seen Alexa Bliss's somewhat transformation from her Fiend gimmick to now something that looks a bit more like the Alexa Bliss of old, but still not entirely the same. She ends up here with her hair, like with a silver jacket. Her hair is back up in a knot, a lot more color in her face. Personality, I suppose, is a bit more like the usual, but she now still carries around the Lily doll as like sort of her Undertaker urn, like a source of power. Is that what we're led to believe, or is this her duality gimmick, like her Damian Priest? Like, will she snap into it in the middle of a match?
Someone is going to steal this doll, and we are going to find out its effects on Alexa Bliss's ability to live a wonderful life.
So maybe she can also transform. We have a lot of Transformers now on the roster.
No, we've got excess IP. That's what we have.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Omos was back for a handicap match with Shelton and Cedric Alexander, the remains of the Hurt Business, and they were the remains that were thrown at Omos here. They tried to sneak attack him. None of it worked. There was a springboard that was caught when Cedric went for one, boots down Benjamin, and then tree slam on Alexander. This went a minute 27. Omos won, and yeah, it just feels like they've kind of stalled down on Omos. Like, he wasn't present for several weeks. Didn't have as big a impact on the Rumble as I was thinking, but maybe this is heating him up once they get Elimination Chamber out of the way and they do something of note with him, because if you're not doing something big with him, I don't know really what purpose he serves.
Yeah, I at this point, I get the sense maybe they still think of him as a bit too green for a full featured match at WrestleMania. Maybe he needs another year of seasoning before, they feel like he's ready for a spot like that. Maybe it's SummerSlam. I'm not sure, but I think you could at least guarantee that, somebody like him would have a featured spot in an Andre Battle Royal or something.
We go to date night with Reggie and Dana. They're out for dinner. And then Tozawa and Tamina show up in disguise. And we just hear "to be continued." And you can hear Dana in the background just saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe my best friend took me here." To Reggie.
Yeah.
They're playing beer pong at the Toga party. Kevin Patrick and the Street Profits have arrived, and they want to play Cruz and Aziz as Dawkins drains the ball.
This was pretty impressive. He seemed to get it like in one go.
Yeah, I mean, it looks smooth.
Did you play much beer pong?
Occasionally. It wasn't like a huge thing among my friends, but sometimes.
Yeah. No, I never did. But I mean, I did maybe once or twice. But yeah, it's not easy. This could
no. I
totally
mean, it's
sideways.
You get drunk. That's the purpose of it. It's not. You don't win. You don't win beer pong. You
win or you drink.
Win or
the other
win or
Kavanaugh
learn. Yes,
yeah,
I know. Next was our contract signing between Becky Lynch and Lita. Becky comes out. She's looking all despondent. She hasn't slept all week. She tells Lita not to do this. My teenage idol assaulted me last week, but I can let it slide if you just walk away. And you've had a great career, Lita. Leave with your legacy intact. Neither of us want this fight. The only people are these demented fans that want us to fight. Lita says, I don't have just one match left. I have a run left in me, and I didn't come here to walk away. Becky says, you're pushing me too far. I know all of your weaknesses. I will go after your neck. And people remember Lita with a smile on their face, but once I'm done with you, they're going to remember you with a tear in their eye. And Lita says, I'm going to end your 512-day title reign, which would be her total number of days holding this title, not an uninterrupted one.
Okay, wait a second. So
this is across multiple title reigns. It adds up to 512.
Are we including from the time she won the last one and then gave it up to Asuka? Are we counting the entire pregnancy?
We're counting all of them, Way. She's only had this title since August.
But no, are we counting the pregnancy as part of the uninterrupted
No,
reign?
they don't count that. It's all of her, like, when she was active holding the title. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's some legitimacy to it, she's never been pinned for the belt.
Yeah. I mean, it's across multiple title reigns. But anyway, so Becky just tosses the contract at her and storms out. This didn't seem to have the deep animosity of the last angle Becky was involved with, where an object was thrown at the other in the ring.
No, this one felt a bit more cooperative. But
I was really hoping that they were going to air that feature that they threw up today on. They put up this short feature of Lita training, and it was more along the lines of what they used to do for those like Chronicles or Day of specials. I thought that would have been a great thing to air on Raw tonight, but they went with this. This segment was actually fine. It was one of the better segments on the show tonight, but they did do a nice little feature of her training for the match.
I think Lita's been sounding better than I've remembered her sounding, in these sort of big promo segments. She feels like somebody who has been watching somebody who's still pretty sharp, if not maybe even a bit better than when she was during her actual run before. So she sounds fine. Becky, in fact, I felt was maybe a little overacting and a little hokey here, but it's okay. Like, she's the star and you have the legend coming in. They successfully managed to pull off, I think, this story leading up to the match on Saturday.
Then we had the Gauntlet Match, where the winner will enter the chamber last of the women. So this was pretty much the Rhea Ripley show, where Ripley went through everyone here up until the end. First up, it was her and Nikki Ash, your favorite pairing, Way. And Ripley cut a promo. The Elimination Chamber match is full of brutality, just the way I like it. I'm back on track. I'm focused and ready to rip through any woman that stands in my way of becoming Raw Women's Champion at WrestleMania.
I mean, I'm guessing these writers just like look at the list here and they just think, okay, what are the buzzwords we have to hit for every single one? Rhea Ripley. Okay, we got to throw a rip in there.
Brutality.
Yeah. Jeez.
Nikki did a promo about showing everyone what it's like to be a hero when she enters the ring and unmasking people like Rhea Ripley for who they are. So they had a nice match here. It was 4 minutes. I mean, this gauntlet was long, but all the matches were pretty short except for the last one. Anyway, Nikki got... They had a rough ending here where Nikki went for a crossbody and Ripley caught her. And then it seemed that like Nikki was going to go for like some DDT counter or... I don't know what it was happening, but it ended with Ripley just dropping her onto the mat and then had to pick her up again to hit the Riptide in 412 as Ripley moves on. Then Liv Morgan was next after that. They also went about 4 minutes here. Liv cut a promo stating that she is the only one of these women who has been in an elimination chamber, and the other women are going to have to destroy her to eliminate her, and I will survive because I always do. Well, always except for this time, because she fell to a super kick and a Riptide in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. So Liv Morgan not going to enter in last at the chamber.
She might still survive the chamber, but she did not survive the gauntlet. No.
Doudrop was out next. They were trading power spots here, short arm clotheslines. Riptide gets stopped with elbows from Doudrop, but then Doudrop comes off the rope, gets hit with a head kick, and then Ripley lifts her and hits the Riptide in 4:53 and moves on to face Bianca Belair. And this was the one that got multiple segments. They were on the floor. Belair went into the steps. There was counters to the Riptide and KOD. Ripley and Belair are then trading these hard slaps in the corner, and Ripley gets tossed off of the top turnbuckle, gets her knees up on a handspring moonsault, and then Ripley climbs up, hits a missile drop kick for a 2 count, applies the inverted cloverleaf. Belair rolls out, spinebuster, KOD, and Belair pins Rhea Ripley, and it will be Bianca Belair entering the chamber last.
I thought Ripley and Belair had a very good match, for the amount of time there. And I actually felt like Ripley looked good with pretty much everybody, including Liv Morgan, including Doudrop. They were giving her the Kofi Kingston Iron Man run, the Seth Rollins Iron Man run, the Sasha Banks Iron Man run in an effort to try to, put some spotlight on her for the first time in what feels like months, where she's been stuck in this tag team division or this feud with Nikki Ash. So it was positive for her. I thought it was kind of interesting that, it was Bel-Air in this position to end it, because she is supposedly your biggest babyface in this match, and you're having her cut off, this other person you're trying to build as on this big babyface 40-minute plus run. So, but in either case, I do think it's to elevate, another potential contender in this match, because it was a match that really needed it. There weren't really a lot of names prior to tonight, other than Bianca Belair, that you could see, coming out of this one the victor. So at least they put something behind Rhea Ripley in this one.
Yeah, because this aired before the Alexa announcement, and I was thinking that they were just going to reveal the sixth person here who comes out and beats someone who had just gone through all of this, but they left it there. So Alexa, if she had cured herself like an hour earlier, could have stuck in here and maybe got the advantage on Saturday.
I mean, the stuffing takes time, stuffing that stuff into the doll. Yeah. Who's your front runner right now? I mean, I think for most people it would be Bel-Air, but
Bel-Air makes the most sense. She feels like there's not been a whole lot of focus on her for a while. So
it's
hopefully this match, like, you haven't really been able to do anything, and then you really start the build coming out of the show on Saturday. So yeah, you are putting her in last. But yeah, I do see Bel-Air winning this unless they just don't feel that Becky and Bel-Air is compelling enough that you want to make it like a multi-person match or something like that, and you come up with a way to add others into it.
Well, I certainly feel like Alexa's probably going to have some sort of spot at Mania. So the question is, like, will it be a part of a title match, or will it be completely separate? Will it be a tag team match? Because those belts are still lingering around, probably, in the corner somewhere, stacked on top of jackets at the Broga Party.
We'll get Alexa and Nikki back together in this match.
Okay, yes. Right. But one's a heel, one's a babyface.
Well, yeah, they've gone through many identity changes since they were friends. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what versions of themselves might recognize the other. The Broga Party continued. Riddle was playing a guitar when Alpha Academy jumped them and said, "Party's over, bro." And that was the Broga Party.
Yeah, it was really it. Yeah, not much of a climax, I suppose.
No, it seemed like a lot of work to get all these togas for everybody and to sit around, and that was our out. Party's over, bro.
Yeah, that's it.
And then we go back to date night with Dana and Reggie. R-Truth shows up as a waiter. And anyway, Reggie and Dana run away from them. They hide in the restaurant. And then she kisses Reggie on the cheek and says, "My best friend saved me." And Reggie says that, "I think we should take this friendship to the next level." Dana only wants to be friends with Reggie. So Reggie accepts friendship, shakes her hand, and then rolls her up and pins her. While the others are laughing here, Dana's left not just in shock that she has been pinned by her best friend, but she was also left with the bill.
Yeah. So
someone put together this segment, and it's had some terrible Valentine's days in their past.
Well, I mean, this whole Reggie Dana story seems to be like some sort of weird enactment of a fantasy about a guy getting his revenge on a girl for putting him in the friend zone.
Yeah, this felt like Vengeance Day.
Yes.
So that was it. Our new 24/7 champion is Reggie.
Back to the status quo. I mean, Dana and Tamina might stick around. Yeah, I could see them following up on this for months to come.
Sure. Alpha Academy against Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Gable came out to cut a promo and said the people of Indianapolis are likely on some type of probation. And he went on about cheaters, despises them, RK-Bro are the worst, and he blames Kevin Patrick's accent for them losing the spelling bee last week and the fans for feeding RK-Bro answers but not helping them. And then he turns his attention to Dominic, calling his father a con man. And they replayed Rey tripping Miz to help Dominic last week. And then the Miz and Maurice come out for commentary. And all of this is a backdrop because they're promoting a movie that comes out this Friday called Dog. That they did this trailer for the movie spliced with clips from Rey and Dominic talking about each other that had nothing to do with this movie, but we just went from clips to the two of them talking about their father-son relationship. Like there was not even a semblance of a thread between these two things to promote this movie.
I thought it was something about like the dog being Channing Tatum's best friend, just like how Dominic is his dad's best friend. That work? No.
Oh, okay. Which one's the dog? I wouldn't want that comparison.
The smaller one.
Sure. This match was pretty good. They had the heat on Rey here. Otis got sent to the floor and was hit with a baseball slide drop kick. Rey hit a sunset bomb to Gable on the floor. We come back. Gable gets hold of a Rey into a bridge. It looked really great for a 2 count. Wheelbarrow into a bulldog. Otis is in for the save. The Mysterios send Otis into the corner. Double 619. And then Miz gets knocked off the apron and hit with a seated senton. But Gable reverses the high cross, pulling on Dominic's tights for the victory as Alpha Academy win. And then Miz hits Rey with a skull-crushing finale after a distraction from Maurice. And we have got Rey Mysterio taking on Miz added to Saturday's event in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. It was a good match, yeah.
Yeah.
And booking, I thought, was pretty logical here. It continues Alpha Academy's run towards the tag challenge. Not only did they throw out the Broga Party here, they beat Rey Mysterio and Dominic, and we had a bit more justification for Miz versus Rey. So positives all around.
Yeah, it's like they're building up the champions here.
Yes. Are they the champions? Man,
they are
I'm
the
so
champions.
Confused, dude.
Yes.
Okay, wow. All right.
So they are building up to the match with RK-Bro, but they're not beating the champions like drums each week. It's a rather novel concept here.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, they are.
And then the main event, Randy Orton against Seth Rollins. It was like a 2-segment match. After Rollins was dropped on the desk, he came back, landed a flying knee off the apron, hit a suicide dive. Rollins then followed with a sling blade and goes for the stomp, which is countered with a power slam. Rollins avoided the draping DDT and then tries another stomp. Pedigree is blocked. And then finally, a draping DDT is hit to Rollins, followed by the RKO, when all of a sudden Alpha Academy come out and Randy just can't muster up enough energy to pin Rollins while he's down. He's got to focus on Alpha Academy. Riddle runs down to attack Gable, and Orton comes to his aid on the ramp, but he's got to run back to break the count, and as he slides into the ring, Rollins hits the stomp, and it's the longest delay before Rollins finally turns him over and goes for the pin. I thought for sure Orton was kicking out of this, but no. 1, 2, 3, and Seth pins Randy Orton in about 15 minutes, and they went off the air pushing Seth Rollins as the favorite going into the Elimination Chamber because momentum.
Momentum, yeah. Man, this was a really good TV main event. I thought, these two have great chemistry together. This was a WrestleMania rematch, and I feel like that chemistry might have even gotten better since the WrestleMania match years ago. The booking I thought was totally fine. I'm, number one, happy in the fact that we at least even got a finish because I thought for sure, okay, once Alpha Academy came out, can't afford to have anybody lose, so especially if it's Randy Orton, so we're going to throw this one out. But they actually, gave us a finish, and again, puts a bit more heat on Alpha Academy. It gives something to Rollins, who's another competitor that I think needs it heading into the chamber, so it was I think fine.
I thought the last 2 matches on the show were very enjoyable. The Mysterios against Alpha Academy and then Orton against Seth Rollins. I thought those were very enjoyable matches.
And I thought the women's gauntlet was actually pretty productive, all things considered, for Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, I didn't have too many complaints about it. It was just that second hour, man, I felt it so badly in that second hour. I was really out of it watching this show at this point. And I don't typically get that drag anymore during Raw, but that commercial-free hour, it just did a number on me.
It was an extra, 15 minutes of content? Something like that?
You're looking at probably like 16
about 15 minutes of commercials?
Yeah, but man, there's a psychological thing to just having those breaks to fast forward through. I mean, it just moves. So as we got some time here is the lineup, the updated lineup for Elimination Chamber. In the men's chamber match for the WWE Championship, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, Seth freaking Rollins, Austin Theory, Riddle, and AJ Styles.
Yes. Yeah. I think Lashley...
I think Lesnar wins this. I think that Lesnar is going to win the championship, and I think we're doing title versus title.
I think that probably would be the safe bet. Any other contenders possibly leaving? I mean, to me, it would
I think it's
either
Lesnar or Lashley. I don't see anyone else coming out with us.
Same, yeah.
Becky Lynch against Lita for the Raw Women's title. I think a given that Becky retains here. Very interested to see where they place this. They are making such a big, their big promotional aspect for this show is how WWE is influencing the world. That I could see them. Could you see this going on last?
Could I see it going on last? Possible, but I don't think so. Something tells me maybe. I mean, if Reigns Goldberg is short, I kind of see Reigns and Goldberg main eventing, because I think Lita is at least questionable to me whether or not she'd be able to pull off what's expected of her in a satisfying main event. We haven't seen her in that sort of match in quite some time, so I don't know if I really trust this to main event. If anything, I would probably, put the women's elimination chamber if you want to make that sort of statement last.
The Usos against the Viking Raiders for the SmackDown tag titles. Sure. Roman Reigns and Goldberg for the Universal Championship. Probably, as I said the other night, I think this one probably goes in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 minutes. Do you see it going longer?
It's interesting because the Roman style has been to drag these matches out with a lot of in-ring talking and posturing, whereas the Goldberg philosophy has always been the shorter the better. So I I don't know, actually. It's sort of an interesting dynamic that they've got going on. I imagine
this could be like the Reigns Goldberg one, throwing that out if it's shorter. Like this could be a lengthy show when you look at it. Like even Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss, that on its own you would think like this should be really quick. If you're doing a Falls Count Anywhere gimmick, it's kind of got to go at least like at least 10 to 12 minutes, I would think.
Oh, just to walk somewhere else, I feel like, you got
to go all over the place, and you got to get the weapons involved. Like there could be some long matches on this show, potentially.
They're paying a lot of money for this match, or for the show. I mean, they got to get their people, the government, their money's worth, I suppose. Yeah. So there's that. I mean, the result I don't think is in question for any of these. I mean, I think Roman retained. Obviously, Drew McIntyre does something. You know what? Maybe I could see them maybe even giving Madcap Moss the victory just to kind of put extra heat on that for Drew to want to beat Corbin, but probably not. Probably not. They, Drew coming back, they probably want a strong win for him.
This is such a dead end feud for Drew. It's just on the Goldberg front. Would you be extending this contract with him? Because the understanding is this is the last one on his deal, unless he's quietly signed something new. But would you be extending it, knowing that Goldberg's not sticking around for a cheap amount either? Like, can you continue with this formula? Is it successful enough? I
mean, I would have told you that the time to end this formula would have been years ago. But clearly, no matter how many times no matter how many shitty performances this man has, no matter how many times he concusses himself by knocking his head into the locker room in the back prior to these matches, the next time you take a few months off of the Goldberg machine, you bring him back, and you remind everybody this guy went on an undefeated streak in WCW and he beat such and such and all this stuff. And I think audiences are right back to it. There's always going to be a sort of a dream match feeling as long as we don't do it too much. And for Goldberg's benefit, they haven't done it too much. So for these sort of Saudi shows, he feels like a mainstay at this point. For WrestleMania, he's always somebody I think you can call to maybe add a bit of mainstream appeal to a show. And most importantly, I'm sure they don't want the competition to get their hands on Goldberg. So I do see them re-signing him.
I think these Saudi shows make it like that he becomes more of a priority to keep him. It's like it's an attraction for these shows, and what are we replacing a Goldberg with if we don't bring him back? It's not like we have a whole long list of guys of this level of star power that we can put in that means a whole lot. So for that reason, at 2 matches a year, I would lean towards them continuing this. McIntyre and Moss, Falls Count Anywhere. Women's Chamber match: Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Doudrop, Nikki Ash, and Alexa Bliss. I think everyone's assuming Bianca Belair, which sometimes it's a danger to assume.
Too obvious. We got to do something else.
Doudrop. Ronda Rousey and Naomi.
I mean, listen, we kid, but Alexa Bliss is obviously somebody who just entered, and would they want to start her run off with a loss? I mean, of course they can also pair her off with whoever else is in this match for her next feud. But I mean, the long-term story is Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch.
Is Lily going to get harmed in this match by one of
these
these women?
Lily get harmed? Okay. Will she get destroyed? You mean?
Because they've made it clear Alexa's got to have Lily with her at all times. So in theory, she should be in the pod with her.
I think she will be. Yeah, I don't think Lily gets harmed. I don't think Lily gets destroyed. I think Lily gets a good run. They brought her back for a reason, to probably sell a few more of those dolls and to give her a, interesting dynamic for her gimmick. So probably going to see more Lily than less this year.
Ronda Rousey and Naomi against Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. This will be a very interesting match to watch, and probably one that they are going to have to be very careful in how they put this out together. Watching that table spot from the contract signing that's going to air this Friday.
Yeah, rough.
Jesus.
How are they going to clean that up?
How lucky are they that was a taped show?
Very lucky.
That was not on the live. The 1 week that they're not live, it looked so brutal. And man,
so for people who aren't aware,
we're going to see a lot in this. This is going to be the most that the Rumble required 2 minutes of Ronda. It's been very limited since she's come back. This you're going to have to put her in for conceivably longer than 2 minutes. Maybe not a ton of time, but more than 2 minutes.
Probably, yeah. I mean, she's flying all the way there, and this is again, it's a big show that they want to make the people paying for very happy. So we're probably going to see a bit more Ronda Charlotte interaction. Some Ronda's gonna, like, the finish is going to be Ronda armbarring Sonya. I'm willing to bet. So we'll see what she has.
And Rey Mysterio against The Miz, which will be probably will be fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
So on paper, this. Does this look like a $50 million show to you?
No,
I
don't think anything looks like $50 million. I mean, whatever. It's but I mean, you know, it's they put effort into the card. They're not just really dogging it. Like they're putting a lot of star power in it. You have Brock, you have Goldberg, you have Ronda Rousey.
No, it's a loaded up show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That will be on Saturday, and we will be discussing more so the this entire deal with WWE and Saudi Arabia, the many issues that it brings about on Thursday. So I imagine people listening to this don't want to hear anything about that. Well, then don't tune in on Thursday. But the show is happening on Saturday. Thursday show will not so much be talking about the card or any of the wrestling on it, but some of the larger aspects to it as well. But that will close Rewind to Raw. So thanks to everybody for tuning in and listening live in the Zoom room. We are live here after every Raw, every Dynamite, every SmackDown. And Tuesday night, we will be dropping the February edition of the Ask Away Mailbag Show, post-daily news shows each weekday at 1 Eastern. And then Wednesday night, we will be live right after Dynamite from Nashville is where they are this week.
Also, Vengeance Day. NXT tomorrow, and our friends at Up Next will be covering all of that on their feed. So search for Up Next Podcast, and if this is one of your times of the month where you might catch NXT 2.0, listen to the show afterwards, or stream it live on Twitch, twitch.tv/UpNextPodcast.
Yes, and I mean, for Davey, it will be the next day, so it'll be day after Vengeance Day.
Oh, okay. So it'll truly be Up Next. The day next. Anyway. Yeah.
Yes. That's it for us, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we will speak with you on Tuesday.